What if Star Wars' biggest question now isn't who wields the lightsaber, but what kind of galaxy comes next? The saga no longer moves in a straight line. Instead of one trilogy replacing another, Star Wars is branching into multiple eras and stories. It isn't rebooting or retreating, it's restructuring. And that shift will define the galaxy's future. A galaxy returns to the big screen. For the first time since Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars is officially returning to theaters as a long-term strategy rather than a one-off experiment. The first step in that return is The Mandalorian and Grogu, scheduled for release in 2026. This isn't just another chapter of a streaming show scaled up to a movie. It's a deliberate statement of confidence. Lucasfilm could have chosen a brand new hero or an unfamiliar era to re-enter theaters. Instead, it chose characters that already proved they could carry the franchise across cultural lines. Din Djarin represents classic Star Wars aesthetics: armor, blasters, lone wolf morality, while Grogu represents something far more powerful: emotional gravity. Grogu isn't just cute. He's the emotional anchor that reconnected modern audiences to the idea that Star Wars is about found family, not bloodlines. This theatrical move signals a shift in philosophy. Star Wars is no longer treating streaming as a side project and theaters as the real arena. Both now coexist, feeding into one another. Long-form stories develop characters and themes. Films deliver moments of scale, consequence, and spectacle. The galaxy isn't shrinking, it's being layered. A new kind of Star Wars movie. In 2027, Lucasfilm plans to release Star Wars: Starfighter, a standalone theatrical film designed to welcome new audiences without demanding encyclopedic knowledge of galactic history. This film matters because it answers a question Star Wars has been struggling with for years. How do you make the franchise accessible again, without erasing what already exists? Starfighter represents a tonal experiment. It isn't positioned as Episode X. It isn't burdened by legacy endings or unresolved trilogies. It's designed to function as a complete cinematic experience. Fast, character-driven, emotionally grounded, and modern. In many ways, it reflects a quiet acknowledgement from Lucasfilm that Star Wars doesn't always need to feel like homework. This doesn't mean abandoning depth. It means changing how depth is delivered. Instead of relying on inherited mythology, Starfighter aims to build connection through character first. If it succeeds, it opens the door for future films that aren't trapped between nostalgia and expectation. Beyond the Skywalker saga, perhaps the most ambitious element of Star Wars' future is its decision to move forward chronologically beyond the Skywalker era. A new theatrical film set after the rise of Skywalker will follow Rey as she attempts to rebuild the Jedi Order. This is not a reboot of the Jedi, it's a reckoning. For the first time, Star Wars can explore what happens when someone inherits a broken tradition and chooses not to repeat it. Rey isn't restoring the Jedi as they were. She's forced to ask whether the old rules, emotional detachment, rigid hierarchy, institutional blindness, were flaws disguised as virtues. This era represents a philosophical shift. Instead of framing the Jedi as unquestioned moral authorities, the future frames them as a system that must evolve or collapse again. It's a chance for Star Wars to grow up without becoming cynical, to explore wisdom earned through failure rather than prophecy. Traveling back to the beginning of the Force. While one branch of the franchise pushes boldly into the future, another turns in the opposite direction and travels backward, far backward, to a time before the galaxy understood itself. A forthcoming film set in the earliest days of the Jedi will explore the dawn of Force traditions, long before lightsabers became standardized icons and long before the Jedi hardened into an institution with rules, ranks, and restrictions. This is a Star Wars era where the Force is not yet a weapon or a doctrine, but a mystery. Felt, feared, misunderstood, and only partially named. This period isn't concerned with galactic politics, rebel alliances, or the rise and fall of empires. It's concerned with belief. It asked what the Force meant before it was categorized into light and dark, before it was regulated by councils or codified into dogma. In returning to this raw, undefined era, Star Wars reconnects with its mythological roots. This is not science fiction driven by technology or spectacle. It is science fiction as legend, as oral history, as spiritual origin story. By exploring the foundations of Jedi philosophy, the franchise gains perspective on everything that comes after. You cannot understand where the galaxy is going unless you understand where its ideas came from, why restraint was valued, why attachment was feared, and why balance became such a fragile concept. This film is not simply about ancient history. It's about rediscovering meaning and about reminding audiences that the Force was once bigger than any order that tried to control it. The streaming era isn't ending, it's evolving. While films reclaim the theatrical spotlight, Disney Plus remains the engine room of long-form storytelling. Series like Andor demonstrated that Star Wars can succeed without Jedi, Sith, or Chosen Ones. Political tension, moral compromise, and ordinary people making impossible decisions proved just as compelling as lightsaber duels. That success permanently changed what Star Wars is allowed to be. It validated slower pacing, adult themes, and grounded storytelling. It also gave Lucasfilm confidence to continue building interconnected narratives across multiple series. Shows like Ahsoka serve as bridges between eras, formats, and audiences. They carry animated storytelling into live action, deepen Force mythology, and quietly set the stage for larger crossover events. These series aren't distractions from the future. They are the scaffolding holding it up. A galaxy that no longer belongs to one story. The most important shift in Star Wars' future isn't a release date or a casting choice. It's structural. For decades, Star Wars operated under the assumption that there had to be one central story, one dominant tone, and one correct version of the galaxy. That assumption is gone. The future of Star Wars accepts something fans have always known, but the franchise was slow to embrace. Different people come to Star Wars for different reasons. Some want myth and mysticism. Others want war stories. Some want political allegory. Others want adventure, humor, and heart. Instead of forcing all of that into one narrative lane, Lucasfilm is finally letting the galaxy breathe. Different eras can tell different kinds of stories without canceling each other out. Star Wars doesn't need to agree with itself to work. It just needs to be honest about what each story is trying to do. The 50-year moment that frames the future. In 2027, Star Wars will celebrate its 50th anniversary with the theatrical re-release of the original 1977 film. This isn't nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's context. By placing the beginning of the saga alongside its newest theatrical stories, Lucasfilm is drawing a line across half a century of storytelling. The message is subtle but powerful. Star Wars isn't replacing its past, it's standing on it. The future doesn't erase the original vision, it grows from it. That balance between reverence and reinvention is what the next era depends on. So, where does the galaxy go next? The future of Star Wars isn't a single destination. It's a network of journeys. Some move forward, asking what comes after legacy. Others move backward, asking how belief was born. Some stay grounded, exploring politics and power without mysticism. Others dive deeper into the Force than ever before. What ties them together is intent. For the first time in years, Star Wars seems less concerned with reacting and more focused on designing its future deliberately. The galaxy isn't being dragged forward by momentum, it's being navigated. And maybe that's the most Star Wars idea of all, because the Force was never about control. It was about balance. If this look at Star Wars' future changed how you see the galaxy, remember, this saga isn't ending, it's evolving. New eras, new ideas, and bigger stories are just getting started. For more sharp Star Wars breakdowns and deep dives into what comes next, like and subscribe, because the future of the galaxy is unfolding right now.